Welcome to Allies or Enemies. I'm Jess.
And I am Sean. And today we're doing a little mini preview of the mini card game Crumbs. And one important disclaimer, we know pretty much everybody involved in this project. Minerva Games is a London-based company, so we've played board games with them. We've hung out with them. Please do take that into consideration. Also, this is a pre-production copy, so some of this stuff may well change. I believe that they're adding some cards for some different difficulty levels. The art's pretty much gonna stay as it is, though.
And in Crumbs, you are running a sandwich counter, and you are trying to efficiently make sandwiches and fulfill customer orders. And you can do this either solo or as a two-player cooperative game. But before going too much into it, let's look at how it plays.
So here we are all set up for the solo game. We've got our 6 ingredients, we've got our bread, we've got our order card, we've got these guys here which you use to cover up once you're finished a sandwich, and we've got these which are your action tokens. The goal of the game is to finish 3 of these sandwich order cards. So after you're done the first one, you're going to switch it with the same kind. So in this case, we'll get another cheese one, and this is going to become an ingredient. Then you're going to do the second one, then you're going to do the third one. If you finish all 3, you win the game and you score the points that are here on the corner. The most points you can get is something like 14, 15, because there are different difficulties of ingredients. And what you're doing on a turn is you get 3 possible actions. The first action is you're going to take any number of one kind of ingredient. So you could take 2 or 3 bread if you wanted. You could, if you already had this bread out here, take 2 eggs, put them on both. You could just take 1 egg. The next thing that you can do is toast a bread. So it just means flip it over to the toasted side. Usually you're doing this on the top of a sandwich. The third thing you can do is every time you finish a sandwich, so let's say this was a sandwich here. Every time you finish a sandwich, you're going to move everything over to the side. This is kind of your little pantry pile. Let's say it's up here. And when it's over here, it's kind of stuck there until you bring the stuff back. You always get to bring 1 back for free. So let's say we brought cheese. But then later on, if we needed some vegetables, we'd need to take an action to actually bring that back over to our prep area, and now that's available again for sandwiches. What makes this game difficult is you have to finish a sandwich every 5 turns. So every time you do one of these actions, either any of those 3 actions, you're going to move one of these up here. And then within every 5, you're going to have 1 done. Then you're going to be able to bring all of these guys back over, and then you're going to make another sandwich. So you're going to slowly be checking these guys off and making sandwiches as you go, which means you always kind of need to be making 2 at once. If ever you can't make a sandwich, you lose the game. If you make all of the sandwiches, you win the game. If you make some of the sandwiches, you just count up how many points you get, and that's how well you did. And that's pretty much what the game is. The co-op game is pretty similar to the solo game with a few important differences. So the most important one is at the beginning of the game, you each only have control of 3 of the ingredients, which means you're going to need to be able to pass these back and forth. And how you do that is when you do the taking things and adding it to your sandwich action, you can take it, add it to your sandwich, and also put one in the other person's prep area. Note, not directly under the sandwich, but in their prep area, so it's available later. Also, every time you do an action, you both choose an action at the same time. It can be different actions. This one can take ingredients where this one toasts the bread. That's fine. But you both do the action at the same time. Also, you both have separate customers, so you both need to finish one of your sandwiches, each one. So you have to finish 2 sandwiches every 5 actions, or else you lose the game. And when you finish your sandwich, you're still going to switch it out with the other one, but you both have to finish 2 cards. So you actually have 4 total customer cards that you're going to need to beat in order to win the game. And that's pretty much the differences.
All right, so starting with the cooperative mode, I like the frantic feeling it gives you as though you're working in a kitchen. Because even though it's not timed or anything, having only 5 actions definitely feels a little bit of a, can I get this done? And a little bit of that push of wanting to just like wrap up your sandwich and move on to the next one, but remembering to check in with the other person because you need them to finish it too. So there is a little bit of that urgency and that rush, but that need to communicate and work together.
Yeah, I think the co-op mode we found it a lot harder than the solo mode. And you definitely do. I've never worked in a kitchen. I've barely made a sandwich, but you definitely have that feel of like, we watch a lot of The Bear, and it's that sort of thing where it's like, chef, I'm going to need cheese, chef. I need egg, chef. And you're like passing it back and forth because you really, like, there's no way to alpha game this game. It's very hard to know exactly what sandwich are they working on, what are they planning on working on, so what are they going to need in what order, and how is that going to conflict with what I'm working on, because you're going to be missing 2 of the ingredients. You're only going to have 1 of 2 of them, which means that you got to make sure you don't both need that ingredient at the same time, or else that is how we've lost most of the games that we've lost. So that communication is so important, which is what you want in a co-op game.
And what makes it really different as well is in a cooperative game, somebody could finish their sandwich really early and get started with the next one. Whereas in the solo game, you really want to try and use all the 5 actions completely. And you want to do that in co-op, but only one person needs to. So it does change the pacing a little bit, where you can get a bit of a head start if you're the first one to finish early.
And you actually have more sandwiches to do in the co-op game as well, but you still have the same number of ingredients. Well, actually, you have less ingredients because you're sharing them. So I think it just is like mathematically more challenging. I don't know the math of it, but I think it's mathematically more challenging. But moving on to the solo game feels to me like kind of the bread and butter of what this game is. It feels like the mode that it was kind of like born to have. And the solo game it's just an interesting little puzzle. Like, if you like 18 card games, if you like the button shy games, which are really known for their solo modes, this is very much kind of in that vein, where you've got the cards in front of you and you're kind of solitaring it, you're moving them around, but you have to think of a lot of the same things, but you also are using time a lot differently because you want to kind of stretch it out so you're never making a sandwich till you move that 5th clock, and you want to have set up the other sandwiches for you to be able to do the next one, because some of these sandwiches are like 8 clocks long. You know how they always say, like an 8 clock sandwich, which means you got to have 3 of those clocks already going before you get to the round you're doing that sandwich, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it is a lot of planning ahead. I do find the pace of that a little bit slower, I guess, because you're not feeling rushed by the other person. Mm-hmm. So you can really try and think, okay, if I do this now, do I have enough bread to have maybe 3 bread bottoms going at once? Or do I need to save that and a little bit more time with each decision? But an interesting puzzle as you try and figure it out.
Yeah, and it does seem at first like, oh, like I'm always going to finish this. How won't I finish this? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh no, I've run out of bread, or oh no, I've run out of this. I will say I'm quite good at this, and I do tend to finish my sandwiches, but I know that that they had mentioned that they're going to add more challenging cards too, so I'm interested to see what happens with that as well.
So that is everything we wanted to tell you about Crumbs. This isn't a final copy, so that's why it's not a full review, but hopefully that gives you a little bit of a sense of what it is. It's an 18-ish card game that you can play solo or 2-player about making sandwiches.
And there is a link in the description if you are interested in finding it, but we get paid nothing for this video. We don't get paid anything if you go to that. We just wanted to talk about this game that we have played a whole bunch of times that our friends are putting out, and we thought you might be interested. If you are, go check out the link. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and please do like and subscribe and comment and all that other good stuff, and hopefully we will see you next time for another game.